Welcome to Through the Word, leading you on a journey through the entire Bible, one chapter at a time. Today, Chris Langham leads us through the book of Ecclesiastes. Now to Pastor Chris.
Ecclesiastes chapter 8 today on Through the Word, where Solomon continues a quest that he began back in chapter 7. At verse 25, he said, "So I turned my mind to understand, to investigate, and to search out wisdom and the scheme of things, and to understand the stupidity of wickedness." That phrase fits perfect, the stupidity of wickedness. He wants to understand how so many people can be stupid enough to think that wickedness is going to work out in the end. So that's what Solomon does. He examines it. He watches the wicked to see what their deal is, and he shares the results with us in chapters 7 and 8. So what does Solomon discover? Well, in 7:28 and 29, Solomon recognizes that a good and upright man is truly a rarity, 1 in 1,000. But he knows that wickedness is not God's fault. In verse 29, "This only have I found. God made mankind upright, but men have gone in search of many schemes. God did not make man evil." Now, Solomon had a unique vantage point for his observations on wickedness. After all, what do people do when the wicked interfere with their life? They take it to the courts, or better yet, take it to the king. So in chapter 8, Solomon comments on what he saw in court and the proper way to bring your grievances to the king. In verse 2, "Obey the king's command, I say, because you took an oath before God. Do not be in a hurry to leave the king's presence. Do not stand up for a bad cause." Solomon says if you bring your case to the king, then do what he tells you and show some respect while you're at it. If justice isn't working fast enough for you, Solomon has some words to the wise. At verse 5, "And the wise heart will know the proper time and procedure, for there is a proper time and procedure for every matter, though a man's misery weighs heavily upon him." Solomon encourages patience. Justice is not always immediate, but justice will come. That simple observation from the courtroom carries over quite profoundly into the rest of the chapter, as he considers wickedness and justice out in the real world, outside the courtroom. He starts at verse 7, "Since no man knows the future, who can tell him what is to come? No man has power over the wind to contain it, so no one has power over the day of his death." Solomon reflects on all these idiots who thought wickedness was a good idea and ended up in his court, and he points out two important facts. You don't know the future, and you are powerless against death. So he goes on, "As no one is discharged in time of war, so wickedness will not release those who practice it." Solomon says that wickedness won't let you go. You can't just start and plan to stop. Wickedness is like a war. You can start it, but it will finish you. Now, it doesn't always look like that right away. In verse 9, Solomon admits there is a time when a man lords it over others. But he goes on to say in verse 10, "Then too I saw the wicked buried, those who used to come and go from the holy place and receive praise in the city where they did this. This too is meaningless." Yes, Solomon says they got away with it for a while and even walked in and out of church and kept up the charade, but it didn't last. I saw them buried. In verses 11 through 13, Solomon points out the problem of delayed justice. Sometimes the courts take too long to act. Verse 11, "When the sentence for a crime is not quickly carried out, the hearts of the people are filled with schemes to do wrong." Here we see why evil is so prevalent today, because God's justice is not immediate. Yet here we also see the great stupidity of wickedness. It is stupid to believe that just because justice did not catch me today, that I got away with it. Sometimes justice is delayed on earth, sometimes it's downright backwards in verse 14, but Solomon knows that God will set it right in his time. Read Ecclesiastes 8 today, and as you do, I would challenge you to consider the stupidity of your own wickedness. Justice may be delayed, but it will be served. Jesus says, "Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it on the way." Ask God for mercy now before you get to his court.
Join us next time on Through the Word as we continue the journey, one chapter at a time. Start your own journey through the Bible with our web and mobile apps at throughtheword.org. Our apps are free and free to share, so tell your friends and take the journey together. Chris Langham is the founder of Through the Word Ministries in Diamond Head, Mississippi. You can find information and links for all of our teachers on the website. And remember, faith comes by hearing, and hearing through the Word.